and welcome back to seatopeninsincity. I am Spike. Thank you so much for joining us. Joining me, as always, is the man, the myth, the legend, the formerly known as Bike King 19, Andrew Pieper. He has a new nickname. We'll get to that in a second. We also have a special guest joining us today. It is pure aggression personified, and it is 2+2's favorite charitable man, Pure Aggression. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Before we get to the special guest, though, we have to talk about the vlogger game that Bike was in this past week up at Stone's Casino in Sacramento. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that game? There's one hand in particular that I want to talk about, even though I fucking hate hand histories, especially with no visual aspect to them on a podcast. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But you have to let us know about your experience and how that went and everything else.
Yeah, sure. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good time. Just there's only one local in the game, and then the rest were all vloggers. Some of which I had met in person already, and then some I hadn't. But all of them I knew via YouTube at the very least. And yeah, it was pretty enjoyable. I liked it. There was some varying opinions on how it went. There's some people that thought it went really great. Some other people that thought it wasn't the best to watch. But I think it went fairly well. Stone seemed thrilled with how it went. They said it was something they would definitely do again, something they would have a budget for doing again, and getting people out, as far as like getting people out and accommodating them while they're there. They had like 4 times the normal amount of viewers they normally do. They're on the front page of Twitch for a while, which was a pretty big deal for all of Twitch.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it was a really enjoyable time. We met a little bit beforehand, had some dinner there, and talked, and then obviously played about 4 hours or so, and then hung out afterwards as well. So yeah, it was a pretty enjoyable time.
So the first question that obviously everybody is going to ask is, how many of those vloggers did you talk into appearing on this podcast at some point?
Next question.
You are the fucking worst. You really are the worst self-promoter in history. Now you shut your camera off too. Okay, good. Oh, fuck. So how'd you do overall? I know that you were up at one point.
Overall, yeah. Made 1,000, so.
Alright, so good trip, profitable trip. All right.
Yeah, good.
I know that you had to pay your own way. Some of the vloggers got airfare and some accommodations paid for. You paid your own nut out there, but you seem to have done alright for yourself.
Right, yeah, the $5 in gas that it took me to get out there was reimbursed.
Well, $5 in gas plus, all the problems that you've had with your Prius. I seem to remember getting a panicked text. What was that? 2 weekends ago, where you're stuck in Baker, California for a night.
Yeah, that wasn't the best.
Yeah, I mean that's like new school deliverance, and you sure look awful pretty out there. Believe me. Now I know that there was the one hand that everybody was talking about, where you had Pocket Kings, and you were against the favorite tournament vlogger of the Las Vegas folks, Jeff Boski, and the one local who presumably you had really no read on this guy as to how he was going to play. Why don't you walk us through the hand a little bit? At this point, you had been folding so much that you earned the nickname McFolding in the Twitch chat, but why don't you walk us through your thought process, where you were, and how the hand played out?
Right, so there's an open to 15, Boski called...
Sorry, this was a 1-3 game, correct?
Yeah,
okay.
1-3 game, so open to 15, Boski, I believe, calls... I could be wrong about Boski. Yeah, I don't think Boski opened. I think he just flatted. And then David, the local on the button, he calls, and then I 3-bet to 65 out of the small blind, which is a pretty small sizing, but again, like you said, I've been folding so much that I had already 3-bet once, and everyone just folded, so that was when I topped up to a few hundred more to have a little bit deeper stack to play with some of the other deeper stacks at the table. And so anyway, I 3-bet to 65, Boski flats, and then David V flats as well. So we're 3 ways to the pot with about 190 or so in the middle. And the flop comes King, Jack, 7, all diamonds, and I have black kings. So it's one of the few times that you're not thrilled about top set, but especially multi-way. And I'm first act, so I put out a fairly small bet of 75. Probably need to go a lot larger, both on pre-flop and on the flop. Looking back at it, but so I only put about a third pot bet out of 75, and Boski flats at 75. David then raises to 325. And I'm sitting there with top set, and I have 640 behind at this point. So I'm not really deep enough to flat and see another turn and really fold ever. I'll have like a 0.25 SPR if I flat, and if a diamond comes off, I'm just like really, really hating life. So. And I don't think I can fold here yet. It would be even really nittier fold if I folded top set here. So if I'm not calling and I'm not flatting or folding, then I just jam all in for 640. Boski then rejams all in, and he has me covered as well, plus about another 600 or so. So he's pretty deep, and that was going to put most of David's stack, if not all of his stack, in as well. So David is tanking for quite a long time, for 3 or 4 minutes, and eventually he lays it down, and then the turn was a beautiful 7, voting me up, and then the river, I don't even remember. An insignificant river. It wasn't the 9 of diamonds, so I fill up on the turn, and I scoop a $1,900 pot at 1-3.
Yeah, that was a pretty significant pot. Now we know that Boski had 10-8 of diamonds, so he flopped the gutter to the straight flush. The other guy whose name that you've just said 6 times and I've already forgotten, David,
had 2-4 of diamonds.
Yeah, so both of them flop flushes, and you've got top set. Kind of an awful spot for you, but I mean, you're right. You gotta get it in there. There's no other option, especially if you're not folding, you're not flatting. You have to get it in. You can't. You don't even have enough to just make a raise.
Right. If I had like Boski's stack, I think it's an easy flat there. To bet and just I can flat and continue to see another turn without having such a stupid SPR. But yeah, you're not folding if you're calling, so just why not use whatever fold equity you also have, and go for it. I know a lot of people are saying like, oh my gosh, you're behind so often there, you have to with that action, but. Yeah, I got it in behind, but I also got it in profitably. Like if you run that hand, 1,000 times, I make money at the end of the day given the action. So that was that was pretty big pot.
Right now, did you offer to run it more than once?
I did. Boski promptly said, he said fuck no, then the 7 peeled off, and he was vlogging, and like I have a screenshot of his face. He's like, ooh. He's like,
yeah, that's a brutal one. Now, when you won that pot, you kind of had a little bit of a mini celebration going on there.
I wasn't that excited.
No, clearly you were just jumping up and down, clapping your fists,
backflipping.
The sorority broads that win $20 on a slot machine. They're making about the same kind of racket. But you certainly ate some shit for that in the Twitch chat and elsewhere. Now, you did try to address it when you got into the booth and you were commentating a little bit during the game. Do you think that actually smoothed things over with the serious poker players, or do you not give a shit?
No. I think I might have soothed it over. I just don't know. a lot of people don't know. I came in there to the game as one of the less known vloggers, and so a lot of people didn't know me, didn't know my story, and I was easily as far as like live hours at a poker table, I was easily the least experienced person there. And I haven't been in poker for years and years, and I wasn't in Black Friday. Like I got into it a few years ago, and then I just started doing this as a professionally in January. So I'm fairly new to the game, and as far as like when you compare me to everyone else in that game. And yeah, I buy in for $300, and I don't play $2,000 pots, and I didn't berate Boski or say, oh yeah, take that, asshole, you fucking yeah, I should have won it twice, you dumb dick. Yeah.
I would have laughed my balls off if you like got in his face and just started like, yeah. Also, I think I just blew out the speakers from that little noise there.
Yeah, so I think it's definitely still okay to get excited and show emotion in poker, as long as you don't take it too far. And yeah, like Chuck Riz Charles told me, he's like, act like you've been there before. I was like, I haven't, dude. Like this is new. This is totally new to me. All right, you played 2-5 and 5-10. You're used to this. I don't. Like $800 pots. Like that's like the big pots that I play, and so. Yeah, it was pretty exciting. Everyone at the table seemed kind of surprised at how I acted, but they all took to it pretty well. No one thought I acted too out of line or that I acted in a rude manner. Boski seemed took it very well, and yeah, so it was that was a pretty significant hand.
I'd say so. All right, I'm sick of talking to you. Now, Mr. Pure Aggression, thank you so much for joining us. No, you're not. So now, we know that you've also been vlogging, and you've done more than just poker vlogs, though. You do, you've had some runs that you've shown through your vlogs. You show some of your art. You show some of your music. What made you get into vlogging as opposed to just kind of being left alone?
Kind of just for fun. I've probably been making videos for about 3 years, but like you said, it's not exclusively poker. I'll make like music, like guitar videos, like interview some artists. So I'm not just specifically like poker strategy, and so just basically people on YouTube. I made a video about some of my inspirations. These guys like Fun for Louie, travels around the world, makes vlogs. Casey Neistat, probably the most popular vlogger, he flies around, zooms around New York City in his electric skateboard. So it's people like that. I felt like it's just a fun thing to do, just make videos.
Cool. And have you only been doing it in Vegas, or were you? I don't know where you were from previously, but I noticed.
Yeah, I'm mostly out here, but like it's not on the level of the Trooper where he's like putting in hours of editing. I mostly just like film on my phone, just either no editing or minimal editing. So. Might not be the highest quality stuff, but it's just good to document it, I think. And it's better than cause I've been blogging for about 6 years, so I went from text and I was doing posting pictures and stuff. Videos is the next logical progression.
Very cool. And with your poker stuff specifically, I know you've been putting in results as well, especially during the World Series. Was that for your own, I don't want to say bragging, but was that for your own edification, or was that more of you were trying to keep yourself, the fuck is the word I'm looking for here? Accountable. Yeah, there it is.
I just thought it'd be a fun thing to
I'm not surprised that word is hard to come by for you.
I used to post every single session results in my blog. I decided, I don't really need to do that. It's more about focus on playing well. But I just felt like for the summer, I looked back on some previous years, so I was just trying to maybe do better than that, and just keep it rolling. I was mostly focused on the hours. I was trying to play 300 hours, and I just, kept a tally of how much I was winning, just for the hell of it, I guess. Some people want to know.
Yeah, well, the people that kind of have no life want to know. I know that, especially with the Troopers recent swings, the people in 2+2 especially have been going crazy trying to keep track of his winnings and losing and trying to figure out how the fuck he can still afford his apartment and everything else when it seems like he's on a massive downswing. And I know he's been getting shit for it. Have you felt any kind of criticism or any kind of blowback for either doing that or not doing it enough, or are you feeling the pressure of the trolls out there?
People occasionally come in trolling. I just try and keep a positive attitude. Like, some people, that's just their de facto state. They just like to troll, and I just accept that. Not everyone in the world's going to be nice. People are going to be critical, and you can take the constructive criticism and kind of ignore the unconstructive criticism. That's my approach.
That's fair. That seems reasonable. Now, you've been in Vegas for how long?
About 5 years.
Okay. How the fuck are you managing the city without a car?
Well, my last car broke down about a year and a half ago. I just take the bus now. It's really cheap, and you can get pretty much anywhere on the bus. I live right next to the strip, so I can actually walk most places or catch the bus.
Okay, so you're not out in the suburbs too badly then.
No.
I had a friend of mine that was at right outside Summerlin, which for anybody that's around here isn't, about maybe 20 minutes to the strip by car. She worked just on the other side of the strip on Sahara and Eastern, so basically just behind SLS in that area. And it would take her 2.5 hours by bus. So I've always, whenever somebody's moving to town, I'm like, bring a car, bring a car, bring a car. But you seem to have managed. Would you recommend taking the bus to people, or is this...
I mean, if you want to save money, you can get a monthly pass for $65, and then I get a veteran's discount, so it's only $32. That's like $1 a day. And,
okay.
And the Deuce goes up and down the strip 24 hours. Then they got the Strip Deuce Express, which is 9 to 12. So every 15 minutes you can pretty much. And I've always, every apartment I've lived in has been less than a mile from the strip. So I'm always relatively close to the casinos. But yeah, I would recommend you have a car, especially if it is outside the strip. It's all suburbia. It's very spread out, but the buses are also good. So.
Right, yeah. But I mean, I'm in suburbia now. It takes me 10 minutes to drive down, but I'm moving to a place that's probably 40 minutes to TI when I play those stupid nightly tournaments that are terrible. So now for the Las Vegas poker scene, we have kind of a lull. World Series is over. Even the tourist numbers are, they're coming here for the pool parties and the warmth and everything else, but they're not really going to start hitting the strip again in full force until probably Labor Day. Bike, this is your first summer in Vegas as a professional poker. Actually, your first summer in Vegas, period. Pure Aggression, you've been here for a while. You were mentioning before that August is probably your worst month. How do you cope with these kind of dog days of summer?
You can play lists. You should put in volume while the series is in town, because you have the most recreational players, the most professional players, the most tables to choose from. So, but I mean, even Vegas and off season is still better than most places on a day-to-day basis. So if you're playing 1-2, 1-3, you're still going to be able to find plenty of games. It's just going to be maybe not as soft as it would be in the peak periods.
Right, and the higher stakes games are the ones that are going to be fewer and further between, right?
5-10, a lot less, games besides No Limit Hold'em. So.
Right. Are you playing that level, 5-10 and up?
I've played 5-10 a couple times, mostly over the years, just 1-3, 1-2, and 2-5 is pretty much my bread and butter.
Okay. And no tournaments?
I've played maybe a handful. I've just pretty much stick to cash for the most part.
Okay. Yeah, I know you were asking me about that on the 2+2 thread about whether tournaments are worth playing. The answer is no. I mean, clearly, the daily tournaments are just garbage. Boski can do well, and, the bigger grinders can do well in the bigger tournaments because they're taking less rake. You're playing against better players, so you know essentially what you're up against, as opposed to just people that play fuck it and would just rather play any two cards. So, Bike, what's your plan as far as the summer goes? Are you going to just kind of stick with it? Are you planning on cutting hours, traveling? I know that you've made it to LA a few times.
Yeah, I was considering going to LA for a little bit, for maybe 1 or 2 weeks. One of my buddies lives there, and I heard that the poker scene sort of dwindles down a little bit after the series, so I was thinking about going to LA. I'm not sure if I'm still going to do that. It still seems like there's still quite a few people here on the weekends and stuff. Still seems to be pretty busy there. We'll see how the games so far seem fairly good. There has been a drop off as far as the number of games that are going, but it's like Gresham was saying, less at the 1, 2, and 1, 3 levels seems to be about the same. Not as much, but still seems to be plenty to choose from. Yeah, I'm not sure. Just kind of do how I did the series, not really have a set plan, just sort of play it by ear and see how it goes.
I guess that is the beauty of being a professional poker player. You don't really have to have a plan if you don't want to. You just go in and get games and everything else. Now, is this... I know the lifestyle offers a lot of freedom for you guys as essentially pros, and you kind of can do whatever you want, but have you found drawbacks, like if you meet a broad or, in Bike's case, a guy, and you try to say that you're interested in this person and you're trying to start a romantic relationship and you're trying to say, like, oh yeah, I'm a professional poker player. Does that work? Does that scare them off? Like, what are you finding?
I've never really had an issue. Like, most girls don't even care what you do. I mean, you're hanging out when you're not at work, so. But I mean, I guess it depends if you're looking for like marriage or something like that, something more serious. Then they're probably gonna want someone with a stable job. But if you're just casual dating, it probably doesn't make that much big of a difference. Some might find it intriguing, because it is kind of a different sort of career than most other careers.
Right. I don't. You have had no luck anyway, so. It doesn't matter.
It seems like I haven't gotten into a serious relationship out here yet, but from all the numerous, I can't even count how many dates I've been on. From the 3 or 4 people that also swiped right. It seems to be some people think that's pretty cool, and like it's like, oh, I play poker, and it's like, did you get my message? Like I've had girls think that was like a really cool thing to do, and then others were like, and then go off about like oh yeah, I like to play craps, and I'm like, well, no, that's not exactly it.
Have either of you run into somebody that thinks that just gambling in and of itself is evil, or that it's wrong and that you shouldn't be making your living doing it? Like, have they tried to lecture you or change your ways?
I mean, I'm sure there's some people that are like that. I mean, there's some religions that are anti-fun, or just they do. But I mean, Vegas, I think it's definitely more acceptable. Like, this whole city is built around gambling, so it might be here different than other locations that are maybe there isn't a big gambling scene, and that might be more like if you're in Utah or something, they might not look down on it. But in Vegas, I think gambling is more acceptable, I feel like, socially.
Okay, but you haven't hit one of the Crusaders yet.
Not that I can recall that they specifically.
That's a very political answer. I appreciate that. Mike?
I definitely have, especially being a pastor's kid. I got into a few above normal volume discussions about like this is about whether or not poker is something that Christians should do, and I think that I've laid out an argument for why I think it is something that you can do. I think like with a lot of different things, I think there's probably Christians that are playing poker that it's okay for them to play poker, and then there's probably people playing poker that it's not okay for them to play poker, and it is a problem. I've had numerous discussions on the topic of whether or not it's whether it's immoral or wrong, or why it's different than going and putting 100 on black.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a case to be made, and we know it, and probably our 7 listeners realize that there's a big difference between poker and craps or roulette or blackjack or anything else. But, I'm always curious because, I feel like I live a different Vegas than a lot of other people, especially you guys that are doing this more for a living. And I was curious as to what it was like out there as far as being able to say, hey, I do this shit for a living, and whether or not that was acceptable. Because, I'm out of the dating pool, and, I know Bike would want me out of the gene pool as well. But, it's just one of those things that I personally hadn't had to worry about. Although I will say when I was on, like, the online dating sites, I used OkCupid for, like, everything. I didn't bother with any other site, and Tinder wasn't a thing, back in the yesteryear. But it seemed like every broad that messaged me was either in roller derby or they were polyamorous, or both. Which I don't understand why I was the one getting all the attention from those two groups, but that seemed weird. But nobody gave a shit about poker. I mean, it seemed to be a different world, I guess. I don't know what the fuck else I was going to say about that.
There's definitely a debate about, religion and poker. Like, my parents are both devout Christians, and they never really hassled me about it. I mean, they didn't really understand that you can have an edge in poker, so it takes some explaining, but I think they kind of grasp it after me trying to explain, it's gambling because you're betting on something that's an unknown outcome, but there's governing probabilities that you can have an edge, and I think you kind of have to prove it because most people are probably skeptical. They think blackjack counting cards. They think lining up your dice in a certain way, rolling. So it's kind of right. You have to kind of demonstrate. It's not something that can be grasped simply by like the simple explanation. People are just going to get it.
Right. I mean, it is. It's a skill-based game. I think we can mathematically prove that, which is why, especially with the online stuff, there was such a kerfuffle with the. UIGEA, Unauthorized Internet Gambling Enforcement Act, I think it was called, where they said, well, online gambling's illegal, online this, that, and the other thing's illegal, but they actually carved out a special place that said skill games are legal, and I think that's why everybody was like, well, it's a skill game, it's poker, and that's when Black Friday happened. People were like, well, what the fuck, you said it was legal, why is everything getting shut down? But no, I'm glad to see at least that you guys haven't had too many issues with that. Although if you want to freak out your parents, I do have a copy of the Quran in my bookshelf back here. So if you wanted to borrow that and put it up on your bookshelf and be like, yeah, I'm thinking about converting, and just to have that conversation instead of trying to awkwardly explain why you think that poker is okay, then let me know and I'll be happy to hook you up.
Yeah, that'd be a nice vlog.
Nice hidden camera.
Yeah, that's
show.
A good prank. Yeah, definitely.
Actually,
pastor's child. Bring that home, yeah, man. Oof.
It's not a bad idea, actually. Fuck. We get that. All right, somebody write this down. We're gonna work on this, and
So we have all the vloggers in the sit and go, and then
yep. I swear to God, this is true. We mentioned it. I didn't even type it. I didn't look for it or anything else. We mentioned it the next day. I went on Facebook. I had an ad for a site that sells championship belts, like replica wrestling championship belts that you can get. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I could drop $250 on one of these things, which is probably too much since if I did a vlogger game here, I wouldn't try to take a rake, but $250 to have a belt, so at the end of the night somebody could hold it up as a champion and add that to their vlog. I thought that would be pretty fucking funny, but not $250 worth of funny, at least not for me. This is my fault, folks. If you're listening to this, if I end up leaving this bit in,
you're not still listening.
I listen to our episodes on mute just so we get a couple extra views on the things, but we're still hovering around that 24 mark. Hey. But no, it's just one of those things where road to hell is paved with good intentions, and we had every idea of doing this, and then I just stupidly got myself into a shitstorm at work, got myself into a class that is way more intense than I expected, and now my fucking comprehensive exams are August 11th, and it's just... my time went from infinite to absolute zero, and I just kind of fucked it up, so that's why we don't have a plan for this episode at all. I don't know, say something, Bike, just bail me out of this shit.
Yeah, I got it.
Work
So what do you guys have coming up in the episodes to come? Do you have any future episodes ideas? Is it mostly just like day-to-day poker scene stuff?
Yeah, and that was kind of the point, is that we wanted to talk about the Vegas poker scene kind of in general. Like, we didn't want to get bogged down to, like, only talk about our session results, although that does play a big part of it because we do go out and play whenever we can. I think the only thing I have coming up for that is I'm playing the TI free roll that they have August 6th. And then, you know, one of the things I wanted to do was bring in, like, you know, people like you and, like, Nemi and Trooper and all that, like, just kind of typical. But I also wanted to bring in, like, with Nemi, I wanted to bring in Boosie, with Trooper. Oh, Poker Kraut and the Boss. Trooper, back when he was dating Molly, this is when this idea was floating around. It was like, to have the two of them there, because I don't think that dynamic gets played out enough when people are talking about poker. It's all because, you know, for lack of a better word, poker is a very selfish game. Like, you're playing for yourself, you're playing for your own stack. Even when you're playing amongst friends, you still want to win. And when, you know, the vloggers are out there vlogging, they're like, oh yeah, you know, this is my significant other or whatever else, but it's not really about them. So to have the two of them there being able to ask about the dynamics and everything else, that was my intention with this thing. But, you know, since this shitstorm over here had every opportunity to ask all the fucking vloggers, like, hey, I'm part of a podcast, why don't you come on? And did absolutely none of that. Not at the table, not in the Twitch chat when you were trolling the other people, which was fucking hilarious, by the way. Not even when you were in the booth commenting. Even when you did troll them and say, well, everybody hates me anyway, so I'm a New England Patriots fan. Like, you had every opportunity and you didn't take it. It's infuriating.
I'll see if I can ask the Trooper if he wants to come on. I'm sure he'd be down.
Nice. That's what I like to hear.
And I'm sure the crowd would probably want to come on too. I'm sure all those guys, they're very approachable. Like,
I'm sure they are. I just don't have a way to get in touch with them.
Okay.
Except Boski. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, I just randomly PM'd Nemi on 2+2, and he got back. It was, you know, it's like playing phone tag, but eventually. So most of these guys, yeah, they're pretty open to. Obviously, if you're gonna record yourself on a camera all the time, they're not shy about coming on.
Right, and I figured that much. I honestly didn't even know that Nemi was on 2+2. It's just I never, you know, aside from like trying to get people through their vlogs or through something like that where they have hundreds of other comments, you know, sometimes it gets lost in the shuffle. Like, and then the two guys that I actually was talking to that had a pretty good chance of coming on were Tappin and Ryan, Way to Cheese. Both of them no longer vlog, so it's like, okay, I'd still like to have them on, but it's like now I really don't have a way to get in touch with them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, I can get in touch with Nemi, Poker Kraut, and Owen, for sure, and
Okay.
and ask them if they'd like to come in. And
Yeah, I know Ryan and Tappin too, so I could, you know, just
Oh,
ask
you
them
do?
if they'd be
Okay.
interested.
oh yeah, right, yeah,
Yeah, Tappin I've talked to through email a little bit, right around, it was actually right before his motorcycle got stolen through that whole saga, so, you know, that, I know, kind of fucked things up for him. But, you know, in addition to having those guys on, like, I want to bring on, like, floor managers and dealers and, you know, people that are talking about poker, people that are not just playing for a living, but, like, living in other ways.
Yeah, cool to get some
poker.
poker managers, having them pitch their rooms. You know, why does she play at TI? Why does she play at Venetian? What makes this room special?
Exactly,
Get their take on it.
Like, one of the dealers at TI is a good friend of my buddy Patrick, and he was saying that they're trying like hell to get a big series in there. They're trying like hell to figure out where they can put it, because, you know, the poker room at TI is pretty small. But if they're going to do it, they're going to do it right. They're either going to rent out one of their convention center spaces, or they're going to rent some of the space from the slot, like the floor area out there. Like,
I should do it on one of those ships, just the outdoor one.
oh yeah, oh,
Not the pirates versus the good guys.
That show was so good back when I was a kid, and then they switched it to that stupid fucking Sirens thing, which is basically just a bunch of hot broads trying to gyrate around, but they were on a pirate ship so far away nobody could actually see what they were doing. Got to the point where it was so annoying. I was sitting out at the barbecue place eating, and it was just like them screeching or something. I actually asked the waitress if they could like try to get them to shut up. Like, I can't take listening to this nonsense anymore. It sounded like my ex-wife. That's 2 ex-wives mentions in one fucking episode. God, I suck. So yeah, I think that is going to do it. Thank you, Pure Aggression, so much for coming out.
Thanks for having me.
If you have anything else for the good of the order, now's the time to speak. Nothing? All right. Thank you, everybody, for God damn it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this episode of Seat Open in Sin City. All of our contact information is down below, including we'll put a link to Pure Aggression's 2+2 thread on there as well, and to his YouTube channel. If you have any questions at all, feel free to give us an email, shout out on Twitter, or anything else, because God knows we haven't heard from any of you fucking people yet. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening. What? Are you trying to say something?
No, go ahead. Yeah.
All right. No, just keep stepping over my fucking lines. I appreciate it. Not that we actually have a good outro anyway, but thanks so.
Does your hair and your beard keep getting
Shut
hot?
up! All right, get the hell out of my house.